Welcome to Awesome Movie Year, the podcast where we look back at an awesome year for movies, which is every year. My name is Josh Bell, film critic and writer, and I'm joined by my co-host.
I'm Jason Harris, comedian, filmmaker, bandito.
Ooh, let's talk about the movies of 2007, which is what we're doing in this season of Awesome Movie Year. And in this episode, we're talking about the Best Picture winner at the Oscars, which is the Coen brothers' No Country for Old Men. It's kind of amazing to me that this movie won Best Picture, I will say, having watched it again.
I agree. It's it's just a hard-boiled, like we said in the preview, relentless, just beat down on the senses and very violent. And the Coens didn't have most of the humor that their other Best Picture had.
Yeah, they definitely. This is maybe their darkest movie, I think. But also just as a Best Picture winner. I mean, in our first season in 1994, we talked about Forrest Gump, which is about as far as you can get from this movie. And that's kind of the thing I think of with big Oscar winners, is this kind of crowd-pleasing, broad kind of thing. And that's the opposite of what's going on here in this movie.
And, we talked about Juno recently, and Juno was the nominee that had made the most money worldwide. So this was not a huge year for box office as far as Oscar nominees went, at least for Best Picture.
Yeah. Although this movie, No Country for Old Men, did pretty well. It made $171.6 million worldwide at the box office on a budget of $26 million. So that's a hit, really, any way you look at it. And it is the second highest grossing Coen brothers movie. Do you want to guess what the first highest grossing one is?
Oh man, that's going to be tough because my immediate thought would be Fargo because it won everything, right?
Yeah.
But then I'm thinking like, Oh Brother, maybe? Oh, Burn After Reading because it does Brad Pitt.
No, although that one did well. The highest grossing Coen brothers movie is True Grit.
I figured as much.
Yeah. Oh, now you figured as much. Now that we
Dave totally knew that.
Yeah.
Okay, Dave.
Yeah, but this is it's the second highest grossing. It's certainly one of their most successful films commercially. They've made a lot of movies that, especially early in their career, I think have cult followings now, but at the time really did almost nothing at the box office.
And this is one of their films that features the most Tommy Lee Jones in it.
It does feature a lot of Tommy Lee Jones. I didn't count. Has he been in other Coen brothers movies?
Probably not.
Yeah, so it features, it's the highest, the number one Tommy Lee
amount
Jones.
of Tommy Lee Jones
Coen brothers
of all the Coen
movie.
brothers.
Yeah,
movies.
that's quite an achievement. It premiered at the 2007 Cannes Film Festival and went on to be nominated for 8 Oscars and won for Best Picture, Best Supporting Actor for Javier Bardem, Best Director for the Coens, and Best Adapted Screenplay, also for the Coens, adapting the novel by Cormac McCarthy.
And overall, it has a crazy connect rate. It was nominated for 109 awards and won 76.
Yeah.
Not all at the Oscars.
Not all. It didn't win 76 Oscars?
No, but that's an amazing amount of success right there.
Yeah, it is. It's huge. It was everywhere that year, which is, I feel like now the Coens, whenever they do something, it's this huge event, but it wasn't always the case before this movie.
Yeah, and this one just broke through in such a different way. 354 top 10 lists at the end of the year, 90 of them that was ranked number 1 on.
Yeah, it was on my top 10 list. I was looking, I had it at number 2.
Behind?
Zodiac.
Oh yeah, you love Zodiac.
I do love Zodiac, yes.
I love Zodiac too.
All right, yes, we're in agreement.
But Josh likes it because of the filmmaking achievement. You like it because you murder people.
True.
Dave actually has a whole bunch of music about murdering people.
Also true.
That he plays when murdering people.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked this movie. I was a big Coen brothers fan before this, so I was excited to see it anyway, but I was certainly really blown away by it in 2007.
When we first started hearing about it, it's like, oh yeah, of course this has got to be the Coen brothers, right? This sprawling, what do you want to call it? A modern Western? Would that be fair?
Yeah, you can call it, or even a postmodern Western.
Right, exactly. And it's about just this hardcore war for this money, that's stolen in the expanse of Texas, and it's got all these kind of good actors in it. It's like, yeah, there's
kind of good actors, very good actors.
Yeah, these are very good actors in it, and actresses.
The whole cast, very
wonderful.
Good. Yeah,
the award winners.
Right. I was just gonna say. They've been officially acknowledged as such.
So yeah, this just felt like right up their alley. And we know that the Coens have kind of adapted other things before this, the Odyssey into Oh Brother,
Right.
things like that.
But nothing as directly as
this is their first straight up adaptation.
Yeah. So did you see this? I mean, I am assuming that you were a Coen Brothers fan. I feel like we had seen a lot of Coen Brothers movies before this.
I love the Coen Brothers, always have, and once I got into them, I went all the way back to the beginning of the canon, the Blood Simple, and it's just called Blood Simple, guys. But and moved it all the way forward. I think I've probably seen every Coen Brothers movie. Maybe not one, who knows? But I have to feel like I saw this in the theater.
Yeah.
But I don't remember.
You don't remember? Yeah, I definitely did. It's I mean, I keep records, so I looked back and I did see this at a press screening. I was doing professional movie reviews at the time, although I didn't write a review of this.
Every episode in 2007, you say that. We get it. You were a professional movie critic in 2007, buddy.
I'm just every episode is someone's first episode, man.
We hope so.
Yeah.
And if this is your first, welcome aboard.
So yeah, I mean, I liked it a lot when I first saw it. Like I said, I put it on my top 10 list. I was a big fan of it. I don't think I'd seen it again until now, even though I had the DVD at home, but I think it's just been sitting on a shelf since 2007.
I haven't seen it again since my first time either. And I'm like, man, I'm trying to think back. Was it in the theater? Was it at home? But it's a very good movie, but it's tough. It's tough and, takes a lot out of you in some ways.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, it is, like I was saying, probably the Coen Brothers' darkest movie, or at least one of the darkest. And it has less humor than a lot of other Coen's movies. Although I was surprised to note this time that there is a lot of humor in this movie. Like there are funny moments.
Yeah. And a lot of that good, Southern style humor where it's just like, where Gareth Hedlund says to
Garrett Dillahunt.
Yes, that guy says to Tommy Lee Jones, he goes, this is quite it looks like we're in for quite a mess. He goes, well, if this ain't the mess, it'll do till it gets here or something like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of deadpan stuff in this movie that's really well delivered by all of the actors. And this movie, again, was very, very well reviewed. In addition to all the award stuff that you mentioned, it has a 93% rating on Rotten Tomatoes and was on a million top 10 lists. Roger Ebert said, many of the scenes in No Country for Old Men are so flawlessly constructed that you want them to simply continue, and yet they create an emotional suction drawing you to the next scene. Another movie that made me feel that way was Fargo. To make one such film is a miracle. Here is another. So I'm with him on that.
I don't want those scenes to continue. I think, leaving people wanting more is the way to go here.
Right. Well, I think that's what he's saying is that you feel like you want them to continue and then they stop and you realize it's the perfect time to go on to the next scene. Yeah. And I mean, I think his comparison to Fargo here makes a lot of sense. Plot wise too, this is a similar, the kind of crime story where everything goes wrong and people end up dead.
Lots of bottom line sons of bitches, man.
Yes, indeed. A.O. Scott in the New York Times said, No Country for Old Men, adapted by Joel and Ethan Coen from Cormac McCarthy's novel, is bleak, scary, and relentlessly violent. At its center is a figure of evil so calm, so extreme, so implacable that to hear his voice is to feel the temperature in the theater drop. The most lasting impression left by this film is likely to be the deep satisfaction that comes from witnessing the nearly perfect execution of a difficult task. No Country for Old Men is purgatory for the squeamish and the easily spooked. For formalists, those moviegoers sent into raptures by tight editing, nimble camera work, and faultless sound design, it's pure heaven.
Yeah, so maybe that, when you're talking about what a surprise it was for you to that it won the Oscar, maybe a lot of people recognize just the merit of all the achievements of this film. And Roger Deakins, the cinematographer, like, he still hasn't won, has he? Has he won?
I think he won for Blade Runner.
Okay, good.
Right,
yeah.
Well, it's
but
about
he had been
time,
nominated like 15 times or something.
He was a Susan Lucci of.
He was. He really was. Yeah.
And it's like he could have won for any number of films.
Yeah, his work in this movie is just so fantastic.
Yeah, I love it. Like sometimes he just changes levels so quietly, right? Where you're following one of the characters, and it's just such a smooth move to get you to that next pace, but it's not showy at all. It's really, really good stuff.
Yeah, all the craft in this movie is amazing. And I mean, you can talk about sort of the more technical parts like cinematography and editing, but the craft of the acting in this movie is just phenomenal.
Oh yeah. This is some good stuff all the way through. And was Josh Brolin a movie star before this?
I mean, I think he was well known, but I don't know that he was at the same level before doing this movie. I mean, I did read about how he had to fight to get the part,
Right,
and
it
he
was-
had to audition a few times. So it wasn't a slam dunk. But I feel like with the Coens, even people who are super famous, even if you're Brad Pitt or George Clooney, they're going to put you through your paces.
Yeah, it was going to be Heath Ledger, which is interesting to think
Yeah,
about.
I mean, Heath Ledger obviously was very talented, but I feel like Brolin owns this so much, I can't imagine someone else doing it.
Yeah. I'm sure it would have been really good that way too. But they said that because he was working on Death Proof at the time, or Grindhouse, Brolin was.
Yeah.
So he had like Rodriguez and Tarantino help him with his audition tape.
Yeah.
And this is a totally opposite style of performance that you would have in one of their movies. So
Oh yeah.
that's pretty unique.
Yeah. He's excellent, and he's done a lot of really good stuff since this. But I thought it was interesting because that point about craftsmanship is one thing that the Coens, if people don't like their work, sometimes criticize them, that it's so meticulous and composed that there's no emotion to it. And I don't agree, but that's a common criticism.
Yeah. And, when we talked to Juno about the stylized dialogue, that could also be a criticism of a lot of Coen films. Not this one. This one isn't. This one, I think, is very true to the area, but,
Yeah.
a lot of stylized dialogue in other pieces of
There
this.
are. Yeah. I mean, and even the dialogue here, even though it's sparse, like there's parts of it that are stylized. A lot of it, I think, is taken directly from the novel, but still. And so that kind of leads to and I've got a negative review here from Dana Stevens in Slate, and she's obviously not a Coens fan. She says, walking out of No Country for Old Men, Joel and Ethan Coen's new adaptation of a Cormac McCarthy novel, I finally understood something about why the Coens' work has always left me cold. The brothers make movies that can be good, even very good, without seeming essential. They can pull off bravura camera work, Raising Arizona, dark wit, Fargo, or chair-gripping suspense, Miller's Crossing, and now No Country for Old Men. What they can't seem to do, at least for me, is make movies that matter. The Coens' movies are effective, diabolically so, without being affecting. And I don't agree with that, but I thought it's an interesting perspective.
Hey, Stevens. Come on in, Stevens. I got something to tell you. What's wrong with you? You're not affected by these movies, huh? Where's that void in your heart? What's going on with you? You can just ignore the mastery of the Coen brothers all these years. Nothing affected you? Not the dude? Not the Hudsucker Proxy? Nothing affected you? I have questions. Oh, Stevens, where art thou?
I mean, I think I don't know if she would argue this, but I think some of Coen's critics would argue that the void in the heart is in them, that they are heartless as filmmakers, and they treat their characters as like specimens under a microscope, and there's no emotion. And I don't agree. And I think I can't imagine you can watch Fargo and not feel like they have affection or emotion for Marge Gunderson, but it's something that people do say.
No, I know. And one of the criticisms of this film, spoiler guys, is the way that Llewellyn is finally killed. And it's off screen.
Right.
It's just a happenstance in a way, of his wife's mother kind of letting the other bad guys.
So many
There's
bad
so many
guys
bad
in this
guys
movie,
that doesn't
yeah.
know where he is. And people are like, well, we invested all this time in him. We at least need to see what happened. And it's like, no, this is it. We moved on,
Right.
So
People were angry about that back in the theater. I remember people like talking out loud in the theater, like, what the hell is this? Like,
Right.
just mad.
it's so shocking, I think, in a way that makes it more effective. But I just think sometimes, removing yourself makes a movie, you amp up that level of emotion instead of take it away.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I agree that that moment in this movie is really effective, and partly because it's so surprising that you spend a couple minutes, at least I did, even this time, because I didn't quite remember, thinking like, wait, is he really dead? Really? That's it? He's dead now? And it just, it throws you off balance, but in a good way. And I think also that you're right, that the Coens, their aloofness can actually bring more emotional power to the movie sometimes.
And at that point, we're almost exclusively moving back to Tommy Lee Jones and his emotional story. And we get it through his point of view. He's so close to being there to save the day.
Right.
And he misses it. And, Llewellyn is dead in a crossfire of gang violence.
Yeah, I mean, and I think Tommy Lee Jones, I mean, he's known for being a stoic actor, obviously, but you can tell that his character in this movie has so much emotion going on under the surface and so many conflicted feelings about retirement and about the way the world is going and even about his relationship with his wife. And that all comes across here.
There's no country for old men.
So true. And let's talk more about the deep insight that Jason just had there when we come back and give our general thoughts on No Country for Old Men.
Today's episode is sponsored by the Golden Tiki, recently named one of the top tiki bars in the United States by the Food Network, and also one of the top 10 best nightlife destinations in Las Vegas by USA Today. They've got great rum, mixed drinks, and of course the Dole Whip. They've got theme nights, DJs, all kinds of fun stuff, including Al and Bud's Oasis, who are two robotic parrots that put on a great show every hour on the hour. So next time you're in Las Vegas, make sure to check out the Golden Tiki on Spring Mountain.
Welcome back to Awesome Movie Year. In this episode of our season on the films of 2007, we're talking about the Best Picture winner, No Country for Old Men from the Coen brothers. And I think it's safe to say we both like this movie a lot.
I did like it a lot. And, we were making a joke about the title before the break. You know where the title's from?
It's from a Yeats poem, I think. Is that right?
Yeah. Sailing to Byzantium.
Right.
What's your favorite Yeats poem?
Sailing to Byzantium. I love it.
Good. Then this worked out for you.
I was so excited they used part of it for the title of this movie.
I didn't even it was like, even if this wasn't a Coen Western, I mean, you use the Yeats poem in there. Yeah.
You got to see the movie.
We got to do it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I have not read any Yeats poems. But I have read at least one Cormac McCarthy novel. Had you ever read any of his books?
Oh no.
Yeah. Okay.
Was it The Road?
It was The Road. Yeah. I mean, so I never read No
Oh.
Country for Old Men, and I had not read any of his books by the time I first saw this movie.
Yeah. Way to look down on me when you're reading McCarthy 101 there. Guy.
I started 3 of them.
Wow, but didn't finish any of them.
Did you dislike them or?
No, I'm just a bad reader.
I mean, they are kind of an acquired taste, like the Coens in a way. I mean, the way he writes is very idiosyncratic, and he doesn't use punctuation, so it's kind of tough to follow in some ways. But I mean, I remember liking reading The Road. But this movie is not The Road. This is No Country for Old Men.
Way to bring it back, buddy.
Thank you. That's why I'm in charge. I don't know. I shouldn't be. Jason, tell us some thoughts.
Good. Just a strong work overall from you, Josh.
Thank you.
Some thoughts. It is interesting to me that it starts off with narration from Tommy Lee Jones's character because we move away from him for so long. And I don't think there's any other narration in the movie, right? That's it.
I don't recall. There may be some more from him towards the end. I don't know, but it may just be like dialogue that starts before you get into a scene.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you're going to bookend it, it does end with him telling his wife. And I could see that would piss a lot of people off.
Oh,
too.
it did. Yeah, it definitely did.
I
it
had
ends.
people calling me on the phone and saying, "Can you explain what the hell just happened in No Country for Old Men?"
Why were they
just
calling
randomly
you?
I don't know,
Yeah.
because I was their movie friend.
Oh, okay.
So yeah.
No, it's not strangers.
Yeah, no.
Did you set up
People
like
I know,
a support line or something? Like, hey,
Call 1-800-DAVE Talks Movies.
yeah. Did you need like, hey guys, if you need some help on this No Country thing, I got you or whatnot.
Yeah. But it did annoy a lot of people. And I think it's another thing like the death of Llewellyn Moss, Josh Brolin's character, where at first you're so caught off guard. You're like, what? Wait, no, the movie isn't over. How could that be the end? But then you think back on it and it's really the right way to do things.
I think it kind of makes sense in the overall theme of like, we're focusing on these people. But in the grand scheme of things, does anything really matter? Do these people really matter? Does Dave's helpline really matter?
No. It is a kind of a nihilistic movie. And I mean, part of it really is about Tommy Lee Jones, his character, Sheriff Ed Tom Bell, who's spent his entire life in law enforcement, kind of realizing that there's only so much that he can do and that life is passing him by, that the world is passing him by, and he has to be able to accept that.
Right. And it's, that Texas-Mexico border. So there's that whole kind of influx of drug warfare. this is 1980. It takes place, so we already know, like, man, that thing is.
It's about to heat up.
It's if I can say, it's gotten out of hand. So
Bold statement.
yeah. So I mean, this is an old, that narration in the beginning is, my daddy was a lawman and his daddy was a lawman, and it's like an old school guy, and the ways, the methods, and the world itself might be just passing him by at this point in time.
Right. And I think you realize too, as the movie goes on, and especially once Llewellyn is killed, and it's like, oh, the movie is still going for a while, that really the main character is Ed Tom Bell, is Tommy Lee Jones's character. And it's kind of been obscured for a while, but this is his story more than it's Llewellyn's story, or Anton Chigurh, the villain played by Javier Bardem, more than it's his story.
I think you could argue also it is Anton Chigurh's story, partially because he's just like, I mean, he comes off the screen in this very cold, calculating, psychopathic way. But there's a lot of his story there too, in this chase to recover the money, and all the the scenes that he's not in, where they talk about him and they're like, he doesn't care about anything. He just lives by his own principles. And, you see the coin toss, which is a major scene that we see play off again later.
Yeah.
Where a guy, basically his life is saved because he's a gas station, or he runs like a little,
a gas station and convenience store kind of thing.
And Chigurh makes him call heads or tails. And if he called it wrong, he was clearly going to kill him. But hey, on that day, he got it right. So he gets to live another day.
Right.
I think it's both their movies.
Yeah. I guess what I mean is that even though he's a huge presence, Chigurh, that the core of the story is about Tommy Lee Jones, that Chigurh is really this malevolent force. We don't understand him as a person necessarily. And the movie is interested in the emotional life, if it's interested in anyone's emotional life, of Ed Tom Bell, even more so than Llewellyn.
How can you understand a psychopath, though?
I mean, it's possible. I just don't think this movie is interested in it, and that's fine. I mean, he's scary because he's mysterious, because we can't quite understand him. I mean, even you said he's trying to recover the money, but is he? I mean, he is hired by these guys to recover the money, and then he just kills them. Yeah, so who is he recovering this money for?
Well, I thought you could say he's recovering it for himself. I mean, it's a lot of money there.
Well, right, it's a lot of money, but it wasn't stolen from him.
He doesn't even really seem like he cares about money. Like, he just seems like he would just get it and just move forward.
This is the job, and
this is the job, and yet, but also, again, he just kills the people who hired him for the job. So there's no one holding him accountable.
I read that there was like a study in 2018 where I think it was psychiatrists or psychologists. They looked at 400 movies and 126 psychopathic characters, and they said this was the most accurate portrayal of what a psychopath is. So
I can believe that. Yeah. I mean, I think he really captures that, the detached nature. There's that scene in the beginning of the movie where he chokes the deputy with the handcuffs, and the expression on his face is just astonishing. And from that moment, even that's one of the first scenes you realize what a force this guy is.
I marked that down in my notes as well, because I felt like it went from like ecstasy to nothingness, you know, very quickly. So and when you talk about the details of the Coens, I thought was so crazy. The way they got his hairstyle. They found a picture of a customer from a brothel from 1979. And they were like, that's the picture we want. That's the hairstyle we want, which is such a tiny, tiny detail. But you remember what he looks like, what he walks like, what he wears, his the way he paces his words, just everything, man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And that hairstyle is iconic now. And you can absolutely see that being a huge risk at the time they were making the movie. And thinking, is this really how we want? I mean, trying to imagine a Javier Bardem showing up to the set and they say, oh, this is how we want your hair to look, and wondering if they're crazy. Yeah. But it works so well.
Right. Yeah. I mean, just I feel like there's that legend of Anton Chigurh that was partially built up by the other characters talking about him in other scenes, like, when Woody Harrelson, who's great in his few scenes here,
Yeah.
he's really good.
Yeah.
Carter Gates, is it, or something?
Carter Wells, I want to
Okay,
say.
Carter Wells comes in and he's talking to Llewellyn and he's trying to explain to him who Anton Chigurh is, and Llewellyn says like, "Well, how does he strike you?" And he says he strikes me as a man who doesn't have a sense of humor.
Right.
Like that's such a good detail.
Which is a great understatement, but also totally true. And then earlier in the scene with Stephen Root, where who's hiring him to go get Anton Chigurh and get the money, and Stephen Root asks him, "How would you characterize him generally?" And Woody Harrelson says, or he has, "How dangerous is he?" And Woody Harrelson says, "Compared to what? The bubonic plague."
Right.
And that's just, again, I mean, that's like an overstatement. But somewhere in between the bubonic plague and guy who has no sense of humor, yet somehow those are both accurate assessments of him.
Woody Harrelson has such a great line in that scene that you're talking about too, where he's in this fancy business office and he just sits down and Stephen Root says, "I didn't tell you could sit down." And Woody Harrelson says, you struck me as a man who wouldn't want to waste his chair."
Yeah.
That's so good, So.
Yeah, there's great. I mean, and that was what I was saying before, is that this movie is funny. There are funny moments in it. I think, I mean, it's very dark and it's disturbing and it's violent, and I wouldn't characterize it as a comedy, but it has levity in it. It has something that's recognizable from other Coen brothers movies.
I would actually go as far as to say is that gas station scene is one of the funniest things the Coens have ever done. I think it's so good.
Oh, it's a great scene, but you're insane if you think that's like a funny
it's
scene.
It's hilarious.
No, there is that great out where he gives the guy the coin and he tells him, don't put it in your pocket because this is your lucky coin. And if you put it in your pocket, this will just be another coin, which it is.
Right, right.
It's all good. Every line in that scene.
I mean, that
funny,
scene is
that's
great,
menacing.
But I didn't, that's not one of the moments that I thought of as funny.
Yeah, well,
that's just dark comedy.
Well,
man.
Josh, me and you, not murderers.
Right.
Yes, I guess that's true.
Yeah, as far as we know. Yeah, but I mean, I think like Garrett Dillahunt's character, I have forgotten that he was even in this movie. And he's so great as the kind of naive deputy who clearly idolizes Tommy Lee Jones and is just kind of puppy dogging behind him. And I thought a lot of the stuff that he says was funny. And he just does a great job in a movie where he's so overshadowed by all these other actors, but is really good.
He's usually good in everything. And I think a lot of the time he plays that kind of side character who you might not be the first thing you think about after the movie, but he's always fun to watch.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. But especially I think, again, because maybe I had forgotten that, he's in this too. And maybe in 2007, I wasn't as familiar with him.
Yeah. We should talk about the women too. They're for the most part background players, but they bring a lot of depth and a lot of emotional resonance to the story, I think,
Yeah, Kelly Macdonald is very good and really has what you were saying, a lot of that emotional power.
Yeah, as Llewellyn's wife. And then when we meet her mom, who is this typically horrible Texas woman. And I'm not saying that Texas women are horrible in general, but if you say like there is a stereotype of old lady, naggy Texas women who complain, she nails it like all the way through.
She does. Yeah. Beth Grant is great. And she's a great character actor who's in a million things, but she does an excellent job. And she has one line when she's complaining about them and she's about how she's being rushed off to go somewhere and she doesn't know where they're going. And and me with the cancer or something like that. It's just so funny.
Yeah. Right. And then the next time you see them, she's complaining because she doesn't think that her daughter packed the prednisone or whatever.
Right. And of course, the idea is she's entirely oblivious to the real danger that they're in. And like you were saying before, she inadvertently tells the bad guys exactly where Llewellyn is so they can go kill him.
Right. Exactly. And, I think we need those scenes with Tommy Lee Jones's wife in there too, to kind of show that home life and show a different side of him. He says like, after he retires, like, I think I'm going to go riding today. Do you want to go with me? And she says, well, I didn't retire.
Right. Yeah. That's a great relationship in just a handful of scenes. And you can get the sense of this life that he's lived, which again, I think goes back to the idea of him as the core of the story. But yeah, all of the performances, Brolin, Javier Bardem, of course, is amazing. I mean, that villain would never work if his performance didn't completely captivate you.
I had read that the other person that was really deep in contention was Mark Strong.
Yeah.
So that would have been interesting. I mean, it would have been a totally different. I mean, this had to be Javier Bardem, right?
Yeah, yeah. He's amazing. I mean, Mark Strong is a good actor and has played villains before. but I don't know if it would have been as iconic and had the same level of impact.
Yeah, I mean, there's the slow staccato that he talks with is so man, it's just so memorable.
Yeah, I mean, I think actually part of it, and I assume this is not from the book if they were considering someone like Mark Strong, but his accent, the fact that he is Spanish and he's speaking with this clear accent is another thing that marks him as kind of this outsider. And even though this takes place on the Texas-Mexico border, as you're saying, like we get no sense that Anton Chigurh is like a Mexican immigrant or something. He's just this alien presence from some other place.
Exactly that. I couldn't tell you where he's from.
Right. And I think that accent that Javier Bardem adds to that, whereas if we just had someone doing an American accent or even Mark Strong in his British accent that he has naturally, I don't know that it would have had the same effect.
Yeah, interesting when, we think about the legacy, right? This was right around the time of Vicky Cristina Barcelona.
Yeah, that came, I think, the next year. And this was really a breakout for him as far as in the US.
Yeah, and he's kind of we don't really see him that much anymore.
Yeah, he's back and forth. He does Spanish language movies pretty regularly still, but
right.
I mean, this was a big thing for him.
Right. I'm saying he's not a mainstream presence here. Right now.
Yeah, not quite. But he's amazing in this movie. And I mean, and he's such a force that he could easily overpower everyone else. But all the other actors hold their own with him. Josh Brolin, Tommy Lee Jones, even Woody Harrelson. I mean, they all make this really strong impact. And I think that goes to how good the Coen brothers are at working with actors.
Yeah. Also, you named 3 really good actors.
Well, sure. But I mean, just by the nature of the character, it could overpower these other characters who don't have as much presence.
Right. Right. Like I said, like Harrelson's in there for just a
couple of scenes. Yeah.
But he makes the most of it. He's such a good actor to watch,
Yeah, so, he is.
I agree with you. This was the big breakout for Javier Bardem, but I mean, any single person could have won any award for this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree that acting in this movie is amazing. And it's amazing too, in a way, because the story is pretty basic and conventional. I mean, the idea of guy stumbles across a bunch of money that criminals have left, and then it ruins his life, has been done in movies going back to the 30s and 40s. And yet they put such a unique spin on it that it feels fresh at every moment.
Yeah, this feels like I'd love to see him team up with Taylor Sheridan at some point.
It does feel a bit like a Taylor. Of course, Josh Brolin in Sicario and Sicario 2, which not as good.
Yeah, Sicario 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Right. Yeah, that was the title right there was where they went wrong.
If you're gonna make a movie about fighting drug lords, they probably shouldn't also be in breakdancing competitions.
Right.
That was just a miss from the beginning.
Definitely wrong. But yeah, I mean, you can see a lot of, I'm sure Taylor Sheridan is heavily influenced by Cormac McCarthy. Maybe not as much the Coens, but by McCarthy, 100%.
Couple of things that, when we're talking about little detail scenes that show you who these characters are, Javier Bardem is driving on a bridge alone and he just decides to shoot at a bird for no reason.
Yeah, which he misses.
He does miss, right? Well, Did he use his what is that called?
Like the air gun thing for cattle? No, he uses just a pistol.
Well, maybe that was the problem.
Right. But I think that's funny because of course he gets every other. In fact, I'm pretty sure the only target that he fails to eliminate in this movie is that bird.
Yeah, that bird is maybe that's next for him at the end of the movie. So
the revenge on the bird.
Yeah. What did you think about the way that his story ended, where he does go and track down Llewellyn's wife, the Kelly Macdonald character?
Well, I think it goes to the idea of his weird principles, that he has committed to something and he's going to follow through, even though there's no reason whatsoever for him to do it, is no benefit for him at all. He's just like he's promised to these guys that he's going to recover the money and then he kills them immediately, but he still goes and recovers the money. He's promised Llewellyn that he'll kill the wife if Llewellyn doesn't give the money over. He kills Llewellyn, he gets the money, and yet he still feels like he has to go kill the wife.
Right. And I think, he did give her that quote unquote chance to save her life by
with the coin,
and she refused to do it, which is really a strong choice to say, like, this doesn't mean anything.
Right.
You're making the choice, not the coin.
Yeah, she has that strength all the way through to the end. And that's another moment too where they allied something and you see him coming out of the house and it throws you off and you start thinking like, wait, did he kill her? What happened here? and you have to infer that. And I didn't even realize that when he comes out of the house, he's looking at his shoes and
bloody,
checking for blood. Yeah, and I kind of missed that this time around, and was a little unsure of what had happened. But yeah, clearly he kills her.
Yeah. Then he gets T-boned by another car.
Right.
His arm is like, the bone is sticking out of his skin, and he just asks the kid for a shirt to tourniquet it up and sling it up, and then he leaves, and that's the last we see of Anton Chigurh.
Yeah, he's like the Terminator, just walking. No, seriously, I mean, it kind of reminded me of that, where they would just walk away from everything and just say to some random passerby, "Oh, I need your shirt." I felt very Terminator-ish to me.
You're saying you think Arnold Schwarzenegger should have played this part?
I think Arnold Schwarzenegger might have been good in this part.
I think you're right.
Yeah. I think,
he toned it down a little.
If we had Schwarzenegger or Mark Strong, I think I would have gone with Schwarzenegger.
Would have been interesting.
Yeah. But Javier Bardem is amazing in this. I think rather than that, what I'm saying is Javier Bardem should play the Terminator.
I'm with you on that. I'd love to see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So. All right. Well, new Terminator. We're going to shelve you for a little while because we got a recasting here.
Yeah, it's all those little details. Another detail thing that I loved in that scene that we were talking about at the beginning, where he chokes the cop out, and you can see all the scuff marks on the floor from where the cop is kicking, and his shoes have like marked up the floor. And as Anton Chigurh walks away, you can see exactly where those marks kind of like stop, and then the floor is clean right after it. I thought that was a really good detail.
That is interesting. I like, how about when Llewellyn gets out of the hospital in Mexico, crosses the border still in his hospital gown, right?
Yeah.
Goes back to the Western wear store where he bought his cowboy boots. He's in full hospital gown and cowboy boots, right? And the guy who sold him the boots looks at him, doesn't even acknowledge that he's in a hospital gown. Says, "How those Larrys working out for you?"
Yeah, I mean that's a great funny moment.
Yeah,
I don't see how you can watch this movie and see that and not say that this movie is funny.
Well, I didn't.
Right, no, but other people may have seen it that way. Yeah, so many little bits are so well done. One thing I wonder about: do you think Llewellyn is a hero? Is he a good person?
I don't know. He's not a hero. I don't know if he's you mean in the protagonist sense?
No, I mean he's the protagonist, or we can see him as the protagonist. But is he a good person? Is he someone we root for?
I think we're only rooting for him because he's the protagonist, right? He served his country 2 tours in Vietnam.
Right.
He's trying to protect his wife and give her a better life.
He's trying to protect his wife because he put her in danger.
Right. That's true. I mean, the hero as like an everyday blue collar person, like, hey, I'm a Springsteen fan. So, it's like, what else are you going to do? But is he a hero? No, he's not a hero.
Yeah, I guess I was seeing this, and some reviews that I was looking up talked about how he was so sympathetic and how you're really with him. And I thought from the very beginning, like, he stumbles across the money, sure. And like I said, there have been a lot of movies like that where everyday people just stumble across this and they take it. But he doesn't just stumble across the money.
Right.
He finds this guy who's dying and begs for water. He leaves the guy to die. And then he goes off and tracks down the money. And then it's only later that night or early morning that he thinks, you know what, maybe I ought to bring that guy water. And of course, the guy's already dead. So I feel like right from that moment, you're like, he's greedy. He's not particularly moral. Right. And yeah, he's trying to protect his wife, but only because he sicked all these people on her to begin with.
Yeah. And, when Chigurh says, if you give me the money now, you'll die, but she won't, he goes, he's like, nah, I got this.
Right. Right. I mean, he maybe overestimates his own ability to take on Chigurh and to take on all these people. But I mean, one of the things I liked about the movie is that he isn't sympathetic, and yet he's still fascinating to watch. And that because you have the Tommy Lee Jones character who is so sympathetic and is such a good person, that balances it out.
I think maybe one of the best sequences is that shootout between the two of them, where Chigurh blows the door handle off of his hotel room door, and it, guts him. And he has to jump out the window, and they're shooting at each other in the streets, and there's a car crash, and just really tense, good good stuff right there.
Yeah, and this isn't a movie that has like a lot of action, but that's a really, really well staged sequence.
I think what you're talking about there, the fact that this is just a story Tommy Lee Jones' character is recalling is, it adds to that so much that there is no true hero to it.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
Tommy Lee Jones would be the hero.
Right. I think he is. I'm not saying this as a criticism or as a negative.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I'm just saying that some people, I was surprised that some people saw Llewellyn that way because that did not seem to me to be the case at all.
Right.
He's charismatic. I mean, dude, he's charismatic as Thanos, right?
Well, sure.
So,
yeah. That's true. Brolin is, people want to have sex with Thanos.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole nother issue, a whole nother episode.
That is a whole, sorry, I opened that can of worms there on.
Yeah. I have a lot of thoughts going through my mind, but
about sex with Thanos?
Yeah. Like, I mean, does he remove the glove or,
isn't it better if he doesn't?
I don't know. It could be painful.
We really don't need to talk about this. But the point about Josh Brolin being charismatic and you wanting to like his character no matter who he plays, I think is fair. Yeah.
Okay.
So
we got there.
Any other thoughts on this movie?
I wanted to bring up one other thing is the sound design, which I think is some of the best sound design in any movie. I mean, it's so damn good. The scene in the hotel with the footsteps walking down the hall and then turning the light bulb, yeah, and all that. And then the score, there's so little of it because there's so much focus on the sound design. I mean, it just works so freaking well.
Yeah, it really does. And I think you don't notice how little score there is because all the other sound works. I mean, it's like the thing I think of is The Birds, which has no score, but something like that where you don't necessarily realize it until maybe later on because there's so much happening and so much for you to take in. So yeah, that's really amazing. That goes back to the craft, the idea that this is a technically perfect movie.
Yes.
So Jason, out of 5 bolts from an air gun, how do you want to rate bolts? Well, I don't know what they're called exactly. The things. Yeah.
What they do is they like stun the cattle.
Well, they kill the cattle. I think they do more than stun it. I
think they do more than
it goes into the brain.
Right. Yeah. So there's no
it instantly kills them with no splatter.
Yeah, so that they can then cut the throat afterwards.
Yeah. So now that we've established that, four death dart
things,
blow air smacker bolts.
Right. Yes. Yeah. I
4
agree.
out of 5.
Yeah, I give it a 4 out of 5 too. I really like this movie a lot. It's not my favorite Coen Brothers movie, but I think it's one of their best. And again, I just think it's awesome that this movie won Best Picture because it's not the kind of thing that you would ever expect for that to happen with.
You know what's so amazing about the Coen Brothers is they've made so many good movies. In my mind, I'm wondering if this is even a top 5 for them for me.
Yeah, I don't know. It probably is for me, but yeah, they're just amazing and everything. There are Coen Brothers movies that I don't like that much, but I think
I hated Burn After Reading. I didn't
really
like that film.
Yeah. Oh, I like Burn After Reading. Yeah.
Well, I didn't hate it. It was all right. I'd have to watch it again. But Intolerable Cruelty, as you know, I totally hate that movie.
Oh yeah, yeah. I liked Intolerable Cruelty, but I haven't seen it in a while. Well, on that note, we can come back and get into Coen Brothers movies and some other things when we talk about the legacy of No Country for Old Men. Welcome back to Awesome Movie Year. In this episode of our season on the films of 2007, we're talking about the Best Picture winner, No Country for Old Men from the Coen Brothers. And I think the legacy, we were just talking about Coen Brothers films in general, not that they weren't famous or popular or Oscar nominated, but I think this brought them to even another level where every time they make a movie, we expect it's going to be a Best Picture nominee.
Yeah, that seems to be the case. I am looking through the filmography. It's not a top 5 for me, but that doesn't mean it's not a great movie. That's how many good movies they have.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And it might not be for me either. I'd have to really look into it. And some of their movies I haven't seen in quite a long time. But yeah, I mean, it's great. And after this, they had, I mean, in terms of award nominations, A Serious Man and True Grit and Inside Llewyn Davis and The Ballad of Buster Scruggs all were nominated for numerous Oscars.
Yeah, and I like all those movies, True Grit being my least favorite of that bunch, So it's maybe I lean more towards their non-Westerns and
Yeah, I mean, I love True Grit. As we were saying, it's the highest grossing Coen Brothers movie at the box office. And as you were mentioning, Burn After Reading also made quite a lot of money. So another thing that now Coen Brothers movies are movies that could make a lot of money at the box office and hadn't quite been there before.
And one that didn't, but is a Western that I really did like, was Buster Scruggs.
Yeah.
That I think I had on my top 10 of the last year.
Yeah.
It was very fun. That really kind of showcased the Coen humor that we're used to, as well as the fact that they'll just kill anybody for.
Yeah, there's a lot of really dark stuff in the Ballad of Buster Scruggs. I mean, it's because it's that anthology style. It's a mix of things, but yeah, I like their I like the fact that they've made multiple Westerns or Western style films. And I don't know if I put it in the top 10, but I mean, I love A Serious Man. I love True Grit. I love Inside Llewyn Davis. I don't like Buster Scruggs. I feel like because of the anthology, it's uneven. There's parts of it that I really like and parts not so much, but I'm always excited to see a Coen Brothers movie.
I mean, they just have so many runs of like greatness. Like if you're going Fargo, Lebowski, Oh Brother, The Man Who Wasn't There, right?
Yeah.
That's 4 in a row that are just beasts.
Yeah, I'm not a big Oh Brother fan, but yeah, Fargo, I mean, and we mentioned how that has a lot of similarities in terms of the kind of story they're telling to this film. And going back to Blood Simple too, the crime story and the noirish kind of thing and everything going on.
Yeah, and Barton Fink, I remember all those hotel sequences with Goodman and Totoro that kind of the tension was ratcheted up, and that kind of reminded me of some of the sound design stuff that Dave was mentioning in this one. So yeah, they're just like, you got to watch them if they make something.
Yeah, no, they're amazing. And probably, if not my favorite working director right now, definitely in the top 3, I would think.
Who are the other ones?
I don't know. I mean, I would say David Fincher, except he hasn't made a movie in so long. And Noah Baumbach, who we talked about earlier in this season. That might be my number 1.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I like that list. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's just off the top of my head. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Coens are amazing. And beyond the Coens, Cormac McCarthy, this was based on his book, and he was also very, very well known and well regarded in the literary world. But I think adapting his work to film kind of got to another level.
Picked up. The Road came after.
Yeah, The Road came after this, as well as The Sunset Limited, which was based on one of his plays and was directed by and starred Tommy Lee Jones, which I am not a big fan of that one, to be honest. It was
it's
an HBO movie, and it's very stagey. It's basically like a 2-person kind of back and forth thing between Tommy Lee Jones and Samuel L. Jackson.
That's okay.
Yeah, no, that's fine. It's very, very mannered and artificial, which we get in this movie, but I think the Coens do a better job of that. Or a movie that I know you don't like, which is The Counselor, that was McCarthy's original screenplay.
Yeah, don't like that movie. Maybe I'll have to rewatch it because it's got such a crazy, I don't even want to say cult following is like a large cult following, but the people who love that movie are just obsessed with that movie.
That's true. There were certain critics who just went nuts for that movie. And I mean, I'm with you. I think we saw it together, and I remember just thinking, what the hell is this? Like, how is this happening? Like, and I mean, having seen The Road, I think The Road is great.
Right.
And having seen No Country for Old Men, of course, I was excited for that. And to see Ridley Scott do something with McCarthy, and it just, man, I don't think that movie.
Yeah, I agree with you. What was it? All the Pretty Horses was the only other one adapted before this.
Yeah, that was before this, right? Which I've never seen that. Have you?
Nope, don't think so.
All right.
What movie is that?
It's
Billy Bob?
based on a Cormac McCarthy novel.
Is it the Billy Bob?
Yeah,
I did
Robert
see
Redford,
that. I did see that movie. Then.
Yeah. Okay. I haven't seen it.
Yeah. It's good.
All right.
Maybe.
Excellent insight there.
Yeah, I don't remember it. So.
We also talked about Javier Bardem breaking out in the U.S. after this movie, and he did do Vicky Cristina Barcelona the next year, which is probably his other major, highly acclaimed role in the U.S. And a few years after this, he was the villain in Skyfall. And I think we talked about having him play the Terminator. I mean, having him play a James Bond villain is a pretty obvious choice from seeing this movie.
Makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah. Although I feel like they don't quite utilize him as well as they could in that movie.
In Skyfall?
In Skyfall, yeah.
Okay. I'll go with you on that one.
All right.
I'm with you.
Fair enough. Any other thoughts on legacy on this film?
No, I mean, dude, like 76 out of 109, right? That's what we
the awards, yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, no, it has its correct place in the canon of film history, I'd say.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a Best Picture winner that holds up, and I'm glad that it won over the Academy at the time. I like it a lot more than Forrest Gump.
I mean, if you're watching all the Best Picture winners back to back to back to back or whatever, it's nice to get one like this in there where you're like, oh, they went dark this year.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think it's kind of bracing. So yeah, this is a great movie, and anyone who hasn't seen it, I mean, I think it's pretty well seen, but if you haven't, check it out. It's good stuff.
See the movie, kids.
Yes. So that's No Country for Old Men, and that's this episode of Awesome Movie Year. You can follow us on the social media.
Oh, yeah, man. We got all the same socials as we've always had. AwesomeMovieYear.com, Awesome Movie Year on Facebook, Awesome Movie Year on Instagram, and Awesome Movie Pod on Twitter. I'm still Jason Harris Comedy on Facebook and Instagram, Jay Harris Comedy on Twitter, and go for Jason on the websy.
You can find me at joshbellhateseverything.com, at Josh Bell Hates Everything on Facebook, and at Signal Bleed on Twitter. And follow our producer, David Rosen's awesome podcast, Piecing It Together.
You can find it wherever you listen to this podcast, and you can find us on social media at Piecing Pod.
What's up next, Jason?
Well, Josh, in the ever-expanding Awesome Movie Year universe, we have a new episode, a new category that we did not have in season 1. Producer David Rosen begged us. He said, oh, can I choose a movie? I don't have much going in my life.
He's Oliver asking for gruel.
He said,
Please, can I have some more?
I need something to make me feel worthy. Can I do something, please? And we said, Dave, just stop whining and we'll let you choose a movie. You mean it? David, do you know? Oh, I'm just so happy. So, Dave, you chose The Tens.
The 10, not the 10.
Did you just put an S at the end?
Yeah, it's just the 10.
I certainly didn't. I've been watching too much Letterkenny. Dave, The 10, a film by the state, a series of vignettes of sort dealing with the
10 Commandments.
10
is that right?
Commandments.
That's right. Written and directed by David Wain and Ken Marino. Directed by David Wain. And yeah, most of the state. This was a follow-up to Wet Hot American Summer. And looking forward to you guys
or was
doing
the
this.
Baxter the follow-up?
Well, that was, I mean, they all
the
work
Baxter
in
was
different...
Michael Showalter's movie specifically.
In
See, he's
different
all, yeah, the
configurations.
Baxter was Michael Showalter's
Dave, are you going to watch this movie before we do the podcast?
Actually, I probably will.
Oh, wow. This will be
Yeah.
very exciting.
This could be
Yeah.
groundbreaking.
It could be. So tune in next time for the 10. Thanks for listening to Awesome Movie Year.
Thank you for listening to Awesome Movie Year. Make sure to follow Awesome Movie Year on Facebook, at Awesome Movie Pod on Twitter, and at Awesome Movie Year on Instagram. And if you like the show, review us and rate us with 5 stars on Apple Podcasts.
And all points west.